The rain hadn't stopped in days when Santiago Cruz was taken from his home in handcuffs, accused of a crime he didn't commit, the murder of a wealthy businessman. His name was dragged through the mud by the very people who once praised him. He shouted his innocence, but no one listened. Not the police, not the press, not even her, not even Isabela. Isabela Moreira had once sworn eternal love to Santiago, but the moment she saw the blood on his shirt and the evidence stacked against him, her heart shattered into disbelief. Her silence in court echoed louder than any testimony. Santiago saw her eyes from the stand, eyes that once held love, now full of fear. That moment broke something deep inside him. In prison, Santiago counted years instead of days. Betrayal became his only companion. Yet, deep inside, a quiet voice reminded him, this is not the end. He started writing letters he never sent. Letters to Isabela, to the world, himself. Pages stained with pain and prayer. Every night, he dreamt of the truth surfacing, of justice coming like light through a cracked wall. And yet, every morning, he woke to the same cold cell and whispers of a name now cursed. Santiago Cruz, the man who lost everything, freedom, future, and the woman he loved. But a storm never lasts forever, and sometimes when it's darkest, redemption begins to rise. Santiago didn't know it yet, but the very foundations of the lies that trapped him were starting to tremble. After 6 years behind bars, a new lawyer entered the picture. Mariana Reyes, young and idealistic, believed in lost causes, and something about Santiago's case didn't add up. She read the transcripts, reviewed the evidence, and saw what others refused to see. He was framed. There was too much missing, and too much conveniently found. Mariana visited Santiago and looked him in the eyes. Truly looked. "Do you still want to fight?" she asked. He hesitated. Hope was dangerous in prison, but her voice carried a spark, one that awakened a fire he thought had died. He nodded. Yes. The fight for his name had begun. Meanwhile, Isabela lived trapped in a different prison, one of regret. She had married Arturo Salvatierra, the same man who testified against Santiago. The mansion was beautiful, but her heart was hollow. She cried in silence, remembering a love she buried too soon. Something inside told her she had been wrong. When Mariana began to uncover inconsistencies, threats came like shadows in the night. Eyelids disappeared, witnesses refused to talk. But the deeper she dug, the more the truth screamed beneath the surface. And there it was, security tape never submitted, stored in a forgotten archive. Santiago watched it from a prison computer, fists clenched. The grainy footage showed the real killer, Arturo, Isabela's husband, the man who wore a mask of perfection while hiding the blood on his hands. Santiago couldn't breathe. The truth was now visible, but would anyone believe it? Mariana submitted the evidence, but the court was reluctant. The judge demanded more. Santiago's release would mean shaking powerful names and powerful people to protect their secrets. The process dragged, and whispers of corruption crept through every hearing. But Santiago had tasted hope, and he wouldn't let go. Isabella discovered the footage accidentally. She had accessed Arturo's private drive while searching for something else. And when she saw it, everything shattered. The lies, the manipulation, the way Arturo always protected her from the truth. It all made sense. She felt sick. She had condemned an innocent man and married the devil. Confronting Arturo led to chaos. He denied, deflected, and finally, with a fury she had never seen before, struck her. That night, Isabella ran, bruised and broken. She found Mariana. He did it, she said through tears. I saw it. He killed that man, and he ruined Santiago's life. Now with a direct witness and physical evidence, the court had no choice. Santiago's conviction was overturned. Reporters flooded the scene. Cameras flashed. But Santiago stood in silence. The world cheered, but his eyes searched for her, for the one heart he never stopped missing. And there she was, Isabella. Their eyes met again, just like that day in court. But this time, no fear, only sorrow and something deeper, remorse. and perhaps love. She approached, trembling. "I failed you," she whispered. "I destroyed you." He didn't answer. He simply held her, not with anger, but with tears. Freedom felt strange. The city had changed, but Santiago had changed more. He wandered through old streets, remembering who he used to be. He had won the legal battle, but could he rebuild a life from ashes? People stared, some in guilt, others in curiosity, but he walked with quiet dignity. Isabella filed for divorce, sold everything, and disappeared from the public eye. Rumors spread, but she didn't care. She started volunteering at a center for abused women, hoping to give back what she could. Her nights were filled with silence and regret. Yet every morning, she prayed Santiago had found peace. One evening, he visited the center. She stood frozen when she saw him. "I came to say thank you," he said gently, "for telling the truth, for choosing light in the end." She wept. "Will you ever forgive me?" His silence lingered, but his eyes were kind. "One day, maybe today." They walked outside. The stars blinked above, as if watching. "I still love you," she confessed, "but I know love isn't always enough." Santiago took her hand. "Real love isn't a feeling. It's sacrifice. It's truth. And truth brought us back." A tear rolled down her cheek. "So what now?" He smiled, tired but peaceful. "Now we live, not to erase the past, but to redeem it." In that moment, surrounded by night and grace, two souls once torn by injustice began to heal. Not perfectly, but truly. Years passed. Santiago and Isabella married quietly, away from the cameras and the noise. They opened a foundation together to help the wrongfully convicted, to bring light to those forgotten. They used their pain not as chains, but as keys. What once broke them now became their purpose. They never spoke publicly of Arturo again. He was arrested, then vanished behind bars, consumed by his own silence. Santiago never sought revenge. Justice was never mine to carry, he once told a young man at the foundation. But truth, that was always worth fighting for. At their anniversary celebration, surrounded by those they helped, Isabella made a toast. "Love without truth is fragile, but love forged in fire, refined by forgiveness, but love is eternal." Santiago looked at her, eyes full of quiet awe. They had found something few ever do: redemption through suffering. In the end, the story of Santiago Cruz was not just one of injustice. It was a testimony that the darkest night cannot extinguish the smallest flame, that love, when rooted in truth and grace, survives anything, even death, even betrayal. And as the camera fades to black, the last image lingers. Santiago and Isabella, hand in hand, walking toward the sunrise, not because the world was perfect, but because their hearts at last were whole. And in that wholeness, eternity had begun.